In this video, I will review the artist display from XP Pen. And also will test it in action by making this portrait from blank canvas to the finished digital artwork. So, the main question is this display any good for professional artists and designers? Let's find out. This device was delivered in triple cardboard packaging. There was one very big box. The second brown box was well wrapped. And finally, the high-quality white box contains the display. The display was also well packed, in multiple foam pieces, and plastic bags. Here is the 24-inch Artist Display Pro. It is rather heavy, and looks solid. The screen is protected with a removable film. The screen size is rather nice, not too small, and not too big. I think that every professional designer will find these dimensions suitable for digital drawing. The width of the working area is more than half a meter. There will be plenty of space for drawing as well as for software tools. The color gamut is fine, unless you have some very special requirements for color calibration. Let's have a look at what also is in the box. Every item is placed in a separate plastic bag. This attention to detail gives a good impression about the manufacturer. The package contains all the cables and accessories you would need to use this pen display. I especially like the USB option because my laptop comes with only such ports. One stylus is nicely packed in the pen holder. It has no batteries, so it is always ready for drawing. There is an additional stylus, which is really great to have. There are spare nibs in this pen holder as well. Also, there is one drawing glove that you may find useful for drawing long lines with smooth hand movements. There are also a very handy pen slot, the multilingual quick guide, and the cleaning cloth. I will now attach the pen slot to the display. Because I'm right-hand, it would be better to have it on the right-hand side. By the way, the screwdriver doesn't come with the display. But I'm sure you will find one. The stylus fits perfectly into the slot. On the left-hand side, there is also a place to attach the slot if you wish. I will connect the display to my laptop via the USB-C cable. The display also needs power. Apart from the power input and the USB-C video port, there are also two additional USB ports, as well as the HDMI video connection. The built-in adjustable stand is a really great thing to have. It is made of metal, very robust, and has several angles, which are very easy to change. There are two rubber rollers on the stand arm. Also, two rubber pads will grip the desktop nicely. It is very easy to move the display on the rollers, while rubber pads anchor it to the desk. Let's switch on the display. The colors look nice, although I can calibrate the color settings. To get the full functionality, I need to download and install the driver from the xppen.com website. This website is easy to navigate, and all the drivers are available for every product. The installation process is very simple and straightforward. The XP Pen driver screen has all the needed settings. You can save, export, and import all settings, which will save time if you plan to use different computers with your display. You can set up the working area for both the computer screen and the display screen. It is also possible to rotate the display screen at 4 different angles, and also to select which monitor to be used with the stylus. There is a separate window for pen settings. Here, you can customize the pen's buttons and pressure sensitivity. Depending on your personal preferences and drawing style, you can adjust pressure settings as you like. The pen is very sensitive and responsive. Another window is dedicated to the shortcut keys. This is a really powerful feature of the XP Pen Artist Display 24 Pro. And the last window is for the roller functions. You can set up different shortcuts and roller behavior for every separate program you use. You can add or remove programs as you wish. Before making this digital artwork in the program Rebel 6, I will set up different shortcuts to use this drawing software with ease. The characteristic feature of the Artist 24 Pro display is 2 red dial wheels and 20 shortcut buttons. If you want to speed up your drawing process, using shortcuts is essential. The challenge with a big display is that there is not enough space on the desktop for the keyboard in front of the pen display. It is good if you have some under-desk keyboard drawer, but otherwise, using the display shortcut keys sounds like a better idea. Another reason why shortcuts are better is because with one hit of a button, you can replace multiple key combinations. So, I will now show you the shortcuts I use for the Rebel 6 painting program. The first key is for escape. A very useful shortcut if you want to cancel something. The second key is deselect. A handy way of deselecting anything that has been selected on the screen. The third shortcut is the color picker. It is a really useful tool for selecting colors from a picture. The next shortcut is for the color balance. It is a must-have tool unless you only draw in monochrome. In the Rebel program, favorite brushes are collected separately. You need a shortcut to access this tab. The following key resets all settings of a brush. This is a fast way of restoring the saved settings of a brush, pen, or pencil. The next shortcut is for hitting the Shift keyboard button. It is followed by the space button. The lower 2 keys, on the left-hand side, are for redo and undo shortcuts. I use the undo function very often, that is why it is located in the bottom left corner. On the right-hand side, the top key is for the transform function. It is followed by the warp transforming tool. Then, there is the ruler shortcut. And another useful tool, perspective. Another tool you may use often is the eraser. I have to say that these keys, and their order, are down to your personal preferences. There is no one hard rule which shortcuts to set up. I am just showing what works the best for me. The remaining 5 keys are fit to screen, actual size, wet the layer, fast dry, and finally, the switch program key. As you remember, there are also 2 red dial wheels. I programmed the left wheel to change the brush size. And the right-hand side wheel is to zoom in and out. All shortcuts are easy to set up. Just click the Show All link and customize every key, one by one. Do not forget to save your settings. You may also export them, just in case you need the same shortcuts on a different computer. The same way, you can customize functions of 2 roller wheels. Now, it's time to test this 24-inch Artist Pro display in action by making this portrait artwork. I begin by sketching the constructive lines of a head. The main line of the face symmetry goes vertically from the top of the head to the chin. The height of a face is divided into 3 equal parts. The top third is the height of the forehead, the middle third is the height of a nose, and the bottom third is the distance from the base of the nose to the bottom of the chin. The eye line divides the height of a head into 2 equal parts. The height of an ear is the same as the height of a nose. There are about 20 more main proportions and alignments of a human head every skillful artist must know. If you want to learn how to draw portraits the right way, take the Life Drawing Academy course. With the main head proportions in place, I can draw the girl's portrait without accidental distortions. I'm using rather bold and dark lines because they won't be included into the final picture. However, they will serve well as guides for digital painting in color. I have to say that the stylus glides across the display screen nicely and smoothly. It is easy to draw lines with precision.
As the Drawing Academy tutor, I receive many questions about copying flat images and photos. Some ask why they can copy pictures but can't draw from life. Why making hyper-realistic portraits from photos is not art. Is it good to learn figure drawing by sketching from a computer screen? How is it possible to learn portraiture if no model is available? And so on. I will answer these and many other questions in this video. This video is special. It explains why copying is not art and why it will make your drawing skills worse. This video will separate artists who understand the true values of original fine art from those who confuse art with replica production. Whichever side you take, leave your comments below and tell us what you think. I would like to say from the beginning, I do not object to copying pictures and using photos for reference. I simply want to give you very good advice if you want to become an original and skillful fine artist. Here it is. You cannot learn good drawing skills by copying photos. By copying, you will do more bad than good to your drawing skills. Should you copy flat images for long enough, you will get into the copying trap. This is when you lose the ability to draw from life and imagination for good. This happens because copying skills suppress drawing skills. Also, making handcrafted replicas of photos is not an original art. It is reproduction. I know many viewers will passionately disagree, so I will reply to possible objections and questions one by one in this video. Some artists may say, copying flat images is drawing. Why, by copying, do you not learn drawing skills? Drawing is a process of making flat images with some drawing tools. That is why it is confusing when the same word drawing is used both for making copies and drawing from life, memory, and imagination. To understand why copying is treacherous for your drawing skills, you need to separate copying from drawing. Copying is replicating flat images you see. Drawing is creating an image of what you know. The difference between copying what you see and drawing what you know is as fundamental as the difference between building a house you can live in and outlining a house with a stick on sand that will be washed away with the first wave. Good art is based on the fundamental principles of constructive drawing. A proficient artist implements what they know, rules of perspective and composition, knowledge of anatomy and proportions. One builds an artwork by implementing things that are not visible to the naked eye, like the construction of a human body, for example. A beginner or amateur artist copies what they see, outlines of a body without any knowledge of how it is foreshortened in perspective and which bones and muscles influence its appearance. Copying and drawing are two image-making activities that require very different sets of skills. The set of copying skills is rather simple. A reproducer should have skills of tracing flat pictures or transferring them in some other way, and accurately filling outlines and contours with tonal values or colors. That's it. To be a good reproducer, one needs to have a good eye for detail, judge tonal values and colors well, have knowledge of drawing materials and how to use them, and be patient to render values or colors bit by bit until the reproduction resembles an original reference as closely as possible. This set of skills, however small, requires learning and practice. Those who master these skills can produce hyper-realistic images that look like photos because they are copied from photos. Don't get me wrong, I admire hard-working people. They deserve recognition and praise for their patience and work. But they are not original fine artists, regardless of how well they can make replicas of flat images. They are reproducers. The set of drawing skills is very different. A good artist must know and use the principles of constructive drawing, which include linear and aerial perspective, axes of symmetry, and projections, should know how to measure angles, relative proportions, alignments, and cross-points from life, how to use contours and cross-sections, how to depict foreshortened objects, should know the classical proportions of a human figure, head, and face, be fluent in anatomy for artists, and know the main bones and their geometry, as well as the main muscles with their functions and points of origin and insertion, have good knowledge of the human body and head planes, know the sequential steps of figure and portrait drawing, have good knowledge of tonal rendering values and techniques, should know how to use golden proportions, how to create beautiful artworks by using the 15 elements of composition, how to portray emotions in portraits, how to tell a story one has in mind, and so on. As you see, none of these skills is needed for a reproducer to copy photos, but all these skills are needed to make original artworks from life, memory, and imagination. Here's why copying will suppress your drawing skills. When making copies, a craftsman would look at a flat reference image which already has contours, outlines, and tonal values in place. There will be no need to practice perspective, foreshortening, planes, construction, anatomy, composition, and so on. The brain will be subconsciously rewired from interpreting 3D pictures to simple 2D copying. Practice will make it perfect. The more you practice 2D copying, the more you replace 3D thinking, and the less you will be able to think three-dimensionally when it comes to drawing from life, memory, and imagination. This is why some people get into the copying trap. If they practice copying photos for years, coming back to drawing would be very difficult, if not impossible. Because the list of copying skills is so short and simple, it is much easier to master reproduction than to learn proper drawing skills. That is why so many amateur and self-taught artists are taking the easy but wrong path of making images by hand: copying. You may ask, how come copies of photos are not art if they are made by hand? Not everything that is done by hand is original art. Here's an example. If you copy someone's book word by word in handwriting, it won't make you the author of the book. Why do you think it is any different when copying photos? Here's another example. If you make the best ever copy of a photo that is indistinguishable from that photo, and then photograph your artwork, the photo of your picture will look identical to the original photograph, so much so that there will be no question who is the author of that image. Of course, the author will be a photographer whose photo you copied by hand, so the better you make a copy, the more you eliminate yourself from the original art. However, if you take some reference images to study gestures of figures, emotions on faces, architecture, pattern and costume designs, and then reinterpret everything into your original composition, this will be a unique artwork that has nothing in common with references you used, and as such, you will be an original author of this work of art. This is what separates artists who use reference images for their art from those who simply make carbon copies of someone else's pictures. You may say, "How about if I take a photo and then make a copy? Will it make me the author?" Yes, you will be the author of a photo and then the reproducer of that photo. Some say that a handmade copy of a photo is original art because it is done by an artist. If a professional artist makes a carbon copy of a photo, such a work does not automatically become a piece of art simply because it was done by an artist. It is a handmade copy of a photo. You may insist that copying is art because it requires good drawing skills. Yes, as I mentioned before, there is a set of skills a reproducer must have. Because not everyone has such skills, to some people the ability to make copies appears magical, and they will say that you are such a clever and talented artist. Here's a simple test. Ask any 5-year-old child, "Who is the artist?" The no-nonsense reply will be along the line that it is someone who can draw. A child would not tell you that it is someone who can make a carbon copy of a photo. Subconsciously, a child understands the difference between making original art and reproduction. That is why every child under a certain age creates original art that comes from within. By reinterpreting what this little person knows about the subject, one draws from life, memory, or imagination. You can continue that you need a special talent to make good copies of pictures. Yes, of course, there is no doubt about it, but those skills are not true drawing skills. Ask anyone who can copy photos but can't draw from life. Some will say, "Customers want to have their hyper-realistic portraits. That is why I copy their photos." If a customer wanted a hyper-realistic picture of themselves, he or she would take a selfie. What customers want is original art that is unique, because this is what makes it valuable. Not everyone understands, however, that handmade reproduction is not original art. This applies not only to customers, but also to some so-called artists as well. The next argument could be that, what if a customer can't sit and pose for a long time, or needs a portrait of someone who is not present? Fine, there is no problem here. That is what photo references are for. However, there is a difference between handmade reproduction and original artwork that is done with the use of reference images. Skillful fine artists can put their own view on the subject and tell the story through their eyes, depicting what they know and think about the subject. How about drawing something that happens for a very short time, and this moment can only be captured by a photo camera? I agree, there are many cases when a model cannot hold a pose for long, like a jumping ballet dancer, for example. That is why you need to have good drawing skills to be able to depict anything you see, think, or imagine. If such skills are replaced by copying skills, you will fail when a photo cannot be taken. For example, drawing a jumping dinosaur won't be any challenge for a skillful artist, but how would you go about this challenge if there is no reference photo available? Once again, amateur artists copy what they see. Professional artists draw what they know. This fully applies to the dinosaur example. If an artist has sufficient understanding of the animal's anatomy and construction, and has good skills of drawing in perspective, it doesn't make any difference what they draw, a dinosaur, horse, or cat. The same principles of constructive drawing can be applied in every case. However, if the knowledge of constructive drawing is missing, then making realistic artworks from imagination becomes impossible. You may say that this is applicable when drawing from imagination, but artists copy what they see when they draw from life. No, they draw what they know about what they see when drawing from life. For example, when making portrait sketches, a skillful artist will use many different know-hows about portrait drawing. One would make sure that the portrait is proportionate, has believable anatomy, and is in correct perspective. Needless to say that if the knowledge of anatomy is missing, or someone has no skills of drawing in perspective, there is not much chance that a portrait would look good when a beginner copies it from life. The old masters used such tools as camera obscura and camera lucida to make copies from life. There is no reason for artists to ignore new technology when it becomes available. Here's the question. If some camera makes it easier to create art, why can we not surpass the art by the great masters of the past if our technology is so much more advanced? It is not about technology, but skills. Any digital photo camera these days will take more realistic images than an artist could produce by hand. But digital photography, however realistic, is not fine art. It is photography. Since the invention of photography, all famous artists use photos. Photos are good for keeping a database of figures in motion, characters, costume designs, patterns, architecture styles, different landscapes, and so on. Reference photos can be a great help for an artist. Imagine traveling abroad and taking thousands of photos instead of making a few sketches. Back in your studio, you may refresh the feelings and ideas you had and create original works of art, not by meticulously copying photos, but by using those images as a reminder of what you have seen. But I like to copy photos anyway. Good for you. The world needs skilled craftspeople who can make handmade replicas. But inside, you know the truth. You're not an original artist, but a reproducer. I like hyper-realistic replicas of photos. This is a matter of taste. Good taste is cultivated by culture, and culture is not born within us, but learned. What to like or dislike is your personal choice that is based on the cultural education you have or don't have. So, is copying flat images bad? This depends on what you use copying for. If due to lack of good drawing skills you copy photos, then you will further suppress your skills of drawing from life, memory, and imagination. This especially applies to beginners and self-taught amateur artists. However, there are ways in which making copies really helps in developing good drawing skills, should you do it the right way. These ways are studying anatomy and making copies of the great masters. Can I learn anatomy by copying diagrams and flat pictures? Yes, this is a good way to learn anatomy for artists. However, making copies of anatomical diagrams is not enough. Here's the right way to do it. Use a good reference image and study the information it shows: geometry of bones, placement of muscles, their origins and insertions. Then draw this picture from memory. Compare it to the original picture and correct it as required. Draw it several times until you remember all the bones and muscles. Afterwards, repeat the same bones and muscles several times by drawing them from different points of view. This way, you are not copying, but learning anatomy, which you can use to depict figures and portraits from any angle. How about copying the old masters? This is another very useful exercise to learn good art skills, to discover methods and techniques used by the old masters, and to develop a good taste in art. Although the end results will look like a copy, the purpose is different. You're not making a copy for reproduction's sake, but learning what the best masters can teach you. Great art is great for a reason. A masterpiece is an interpretation of the master's view. It is stylized and crafted the way that makes fine art. Those methods and techniques used by the masters only become apparent when you repeat them yourself. That is why copying great masterpieces helps. However, it should be done in addition, not in replacement of learning good art skills by drawing from life, because copying is copying after all, even if you make a copy of a masterpiece. Is it good to draw life models by watching videos on a computer screen? The short answer is no. Even if you watch a model moving, you look at a flat computer screen. There is no depth to make it three-dimensional. Drawing from videos will be the same as copying flat images. How about making self-portraits? Is it copying because I look in a flat mirror? Making a self-portrait is drawing from life. A mirror simply reflects light rays, keeping the third dimension in place. You can see depth in a mirror. Making self-portraits is a great way to practice life drawing. I've heard so many times that some could not learn good drawing skills because hiring models is expensive, or because there are no life drawing sessions in one's town. Such classic excuses often come from beginners. Here's a quick test. Can you name at least 20 proportions of a human body and 20 proportions of a head and face? Can you name 34 principles of constructive drawing? Can you name origins and insertions of 100 main muscles of a human body? If not, what are you going to do with a model? You're not yet ready to take on drawing from life. There are many other basic things you need to learn to benefit from life drawing sessions. If you insist that learning models from life is good for beginners, here's another question. How many self-portraits have you done yesterday? Last week? Last month? If none, having no models is just an excuse. You always have the most patient and ready-to-pose model: yourself.
I have finally completed this artwork, consisting of a realistic portrait and very stylized background. It was a good exercise to test how the Artist Pro display performs for digital painting. I really like this display. It is a great tool for professional artists and designers. Should you get it? Yes. It has all the features you would expect from such a device, and it costs less than other similar quality displays.